At the same time that this is happening in terms of towers all over the world being rolled out, and of course people are not able to protest because they are isolated from each other and under house arrest. That's why they're doing it. Elon Musk, who is, I wouldn't call him a psychopath because that's not enough. This man is a super psychopath. Reason, he knows what this impact is going to be. He is putting, week by week, more and more satellites at low altitudes, beaming 5G at the Earth. And he has permission for like tens of thousands already, and he's just getting towards that goal. What he wants is 42,000. Already, with just the ones he's got up there now, the astronomy community, he's been complaining around the world, they can't see the frickin' night sky anymore because of these satellites, which are beaming 5G at the Earth. And while this lockdown has been on, he has been given permission by the Federal Communications Commission, which allowed the rollout of 5G without testing because it's owned by the cult. He's been given permission for 1 million ground antenna in America, which will, through electromagnetic fields, connect with the satellites. Because what they're creating, I've been writing this for decades, they are creating a technological sub-reality of 5G, what they call the smart grid, surrounding the world with satellites and pouring this stuff in, because they're creating a sub-reality to which the human mind will be connected to via AI, and they're even giving you a time when this should start to happen in a serious way, 2030, a year that keeps coming up for everything. So that's what is going on.
And he got this permission during the lockdown.
Yes, during the lockdown. Now, let's just look at this. Let's take a Chinese scenario. But I've got to say this first. 5G is a range of frequencies. It's not one frequency. Now, they're starting here, but they want to go there. And they can already go there, and going there has great implications in the ways that I'm going to describe. If people go to that package for London Real viewers on my website, they'll see in the line of videos a New York doctor. This is a New York doctor who's so exasperated he made a video. He just kind of really stepped out of the line, out of the box. And he's been working at a emergency intensive care unit at a hospital in New York. And what he says on this video is, look, this is not COVID-19. It's not what we're told it is. He says, we were told, look at the pyramid, right? And everyone does as they're told. He said, we were told to treat people with lung problems that come to us as people who have an infectious disease called COVID-19. He said, that is not what we are seeing. After the interview, go and see him talk on the video. This is not what we're seeing, he said. He said, I've never seen anything like this in terms of what I'm seeing in the lungs of these people and what these people are suffering and dying from. This is what he said. Their lungs look like someone who's flying at 30,000 feet and there's cabin pressure disappears, the oxygen disappears, and they slowly die of lack of oxygen. He said another analogy, it's like their lungs look like something I would expect if you took someone and you put them on the top of Everest with no acclimatization and obviously no breathing apparatus. You would expect their lungs to do that. He said, I don't know what's going on, but it's not COVID-19, it's not an infectious disease, and I've never seen anything like it. Now, and this is admitted by the telecommunications industry. 5G at 60 gigahertz, which is where they want to take it, and I say already bloody have on the quiet, stops the human body and blood absorbing oxygen. If someone is hit by 60 gigahertz frequencies of 5G, they will not be able to absorb enough oxygen. They would just collapse in the street. And those symptoms, that outcome, is so exactly what this doctor in New York is describing he is seeing, but says, I don't know what's going on, never seen anything like it. And you know, let me just bring this around. They have not had enough dead people, despite fixing the figures and getting as many people to die of COVID-19 as possible, to justify the fact that it's this vastly deadly virus. But at the same time, the death figures are basically not going up of all causes. They're building morgues. They're turning football pitches into morgues. They're doing it in many, many countries. They're having preparations for lots and lots of dead people. They don't fit, except just fixing the figures wouldn't justify filling those, because they'd never do it. And if they're building all these massive mortuaries, etc., and the figures start to go down, as they have in China, oh, we're through it, they're going to look total prats. So why are they doing it? Well, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying this is something that we should watch for. The more, this is why they're doing it now, rolling out all these 5G towers, etc., everywhere, these satellites, the more that they expand 5G, the more 5G is going to impact upon the population's health. And the more it impacts upon the population's health, the more they can say it's caused by COVID-19. And if they start firing out 5G at 60 gigahertz, they're going to have a lot of people who are going to keel over because they can't absorb oxygen. Now, if they did that, they could start filling mortuaries, and they could say, look, this is the virus, what it's doing, we must have even more lockdown, and it must go on and on and on and on. So we need to watch for that. Given the figures and the numbers we've had so far, if people start going down in large numbers, in anywhere in the world where there's 5G, and end up in these mortuaries, we should start to question big time and put two and two together. Because that happening on the trajectory of figures so far would be unexplainable, but not if they're taking oxygen out of the atmosphere. And it can be done in a very small area. You can target an old people's home, and you can take the oxygen out with 5G, and people will die. And you'll say COVID-19. And you know what's happening? And there's been, you know, what are now called citizen journalists, people who go out with their cameras and their phone cameras to film this stuff. What they're doing while the schools are closed, what they're doing while people are locked away, is they're putting 5G into schools. You know where else they're putting 5G? Into frickin' hospitals. They're putting 5G everywhere. And so once this is set up, they have the ability to manipulate people psychologically and physically. And where this is all leading, well, part of where it's all leading, is to the vaccine.
Now, before we get to the vaccine, there's hospitals that we've seen that are vacant.
Yeah.
There are these emergency things that are vacant. And some of these curbs we're told, are flattening, which means, like you said, they're not going to be used.
No.
Which is going to make this all look like a big overreaction, which is going to make all these lockdown powers be able to easily be reversed.
Yeah, so exactly. So the question is, are they going to allow that to happen and just say, oh, no, because this is the key. This is the scam. When these figures that this Imperial College and this Neil Ferguson prat claimed don't manifest, what are they going to say? The lockdown was the reason they didn't manifest. So basically they can't lose. But they locked down Italy on March the 9th, and the figures have just gone and gone and gone and up week after week after week after week. Whereas in China, they went down like that. Will they just let it go down and that's the end of it? Or are they building these massively overreacting morgues, etc., for a reason? Because you're absolutely right. We are told by the media, and by the media I don't mean journalists, by the way. They'll never be journalists. We're talking about war zone hospitals. Now, if they start using 60 gigahertz 5G to take out people absorbing oxygen, then there may well be war zone hospitals in that scenario. But as things are, they're not war zone hospitals. People have been going around all over the world, you're absolutely right what you say, to these war zone hospitals. They're frickin' empty. They're empty. One guy went round a hospital in Stoke Mandeville for 2 hours, filming everything. Bloody place was empty. What did they do? Well done, mate. Why is this hospital empty? It's supposed to be a war zone. They've jailed him for doing that. And you mentioned it earlier, this is a very important point. We have in this country a government department, a government censor, called Ofcom, Office of Communications, which is the regulator of British broadcasters. They have said, and it's run by a lady called Melanie Dawes. We need to note these names down, ladies and gentlemen. And when we're through this, at some level through it, these people have to be called to account. We have a situation where this lady and her organization, which is a government department, has told British broadcasters, and of course they've complied spinelessly as usual, that they will face serious sanctions if they allow any discussion on their television stations and radio stations about any connection between 5G and so-called COVID-19. The British government, through this other idiot, the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, people are sitting there all over their houses, 66 million people in this country, oh yeah, sitting in my house and doing as I'm told, because this guy who you wouldn't let run a Lego house, Hancock, he's saying that everyone must do that. I mean, what are we doing? Anyway, people like him are now saying to the giants of Silicon Valley, your Zuckerbergs at Facebook, your Brins and Pages at Google, and your Wachowskis at Google-owned YouTube, etc., that they should ban people who are making a connection between 5G and this COVID-19 crisis. So that tells you, one, they couldn't care less about freedom and the right to free